Hey, welcome back to the Emerald Knight Part 9, Bricks and Leaves. In this part, we finally made it to Chapter 2. And most of this part was me just trying to orientate myself. And since we are now in a new setting, because, so much of so many previous parts were in the dark and in that one clearing that our characters just left. This takes place the morning after the sun is out and we have new setting. So pretty much the entirety or most of this part is me trying to orientate myself on where we are now, where the characters are now, and how Aranthis is feeling, and trying to communicate her misery, not just emotional misery, but physical misery. I spent some time to come up with a bunch of names and rules for this world that, like I said before, that will really help in progressing further in this world. I'll try and talk a little more about that later if I come across some free time. But I wanted to say, I like that Aranthis's mouth hangs open like a dog's. I feel like it's a good way to exemplify her exhaustion from physical exertion and misery from her physical aches and pains, and probably emotional exhaustion as well. But here's a moment of a character juxtaposition between their characters, just trying to fit it in anywhere that I can, not necessarily trying to force it in, but just thinking about when they would interact with each other whatsoever and exemplify how different they are. It's a decent one. It's not big, but it's decent. Hanging with me on a fallen tree. So yeah, I came up with a lot of names and rules and stuff that would really help to help as we progress forward through the story as I write. So I don't have to sit there as I'm writing, cut into my writing time to here's one name right here. But cut into my writing time to just pause and think too long and hard about it. But here's the name right here, Corwin. That's the name of Aranthis's village. I'll be real and say that I am using a name generator, because, at least for me, coming up with a lot of fantasy names that sound really nice and good is difficult. Like the amount of time that I spent stressing over just the names of these two characters. If I did that for everything, I'd lose my mind. I'd never get to the story. I'd never get around to writing it. But yeah, so the name Corwin. Let me clarify something first. I'm not going to use the name generator for everything, of course. But if I'm stuck and push comes to shove and I fall short, I will use it. But I will try to use it sparingly. But anyway, I thought that corn was a good name because, like, even though it doesn't ring true or, like, give that sense of elf, I thought it was a good name, and that, maybe the inhabitants of this village before Aranthis and the Dark Elves were humans. And maybe just the current inhabitants, or whenever they... I don't know if they, like, if they took it over through war or whatever, but maybe they just were too lazy to change the name. But yeah, I thought it was an alright name. Here's the part where I'm just describing, trying to really bring out the visuals of the armor, and like other things before this, it's pretty vague and shadowy, but I try to focus more so on the helmet than anything. So, Aranthis probably knows generally what armor looks like and is shaped like, but the helmet she's more or less unfamiliar with. And I like this moment that's coming up right here. I was debating on whether or not to just show the knight's face right here and there, but then I thought, well, let me make that a little bit different. So I just had her look away immediately, and all the images that she just saw in that one glimpse just process, they just process all at once. And it's kind of comedic. I mean, it is. It's like, it's not like outrageous or anything, but it's there's a comedic tone to it. And two, I was debating on whether or not to include that, because she just, while it is good to have, comedy after a bunch of serious stuff and drama, I was debating on whether or not I should include this here because of how close it was to all of that drama that just preceded it. If that makes any sense. Like it needs more buffer away from the drama to really feel appropriate for me. I don't know. It might be something I'll change later. Should I revise? But I even though it's in the third person, I enjoy the the mental struggle that Aranthis is going through. I did change. I did go back. I didn't record it, but I did go back and change as long as her fingers, that phrase, to simplify it. I changed it to as long as her thumbs, just to simplify it even more. And I have the comedic tone keeps continuing, but I have a parentheses around that long dash, and I believe I use it correctly there, but I'm not entirely sure. Here's, from what I understand, the general implication of the long dash is that it is like combining two ideas or thoughts into one sentence. And there are multiple ways you can do that with like a comma, semicolon, whatever. But the stuff that combine that is linked, quite literally linked with the long dash. The ideas are so closely linked together and so strongly connected that to break these two ideas or thoughts into two separate sentences would feel perhaps redundant, maybe even tedious. But that's like the general idea of using the long dash. There's a lot of there's several like particular usages or uses for it, but before I continue, I wanna say I just I just want to voice how much I enjoy comparing the knight's face to like bricks, like a brick wall or a brick house. I do feel like I need to alter some of the implications behind some of the descriptions, such as the like the bricks arched over the eyes, like the lid, like whatever the heck that part of a building is called, like the roof over the wall, because then like implies, I'm not trying to make him look like a caveman. That's not the implication, so I may need to revise that to better communicate the idea of their look. Anyway, so in those brackets I have more intimidation, because I feel like there should be more intimidating qualities in the face. I don't know. Anyway, so what I was thinking about in that moment where I fenced off that long dash, I was thinking back to an author that I used to read, goes by the name of S.D. Perry, and she wrote a lot of novelizations of the Resident Evil games. So from 0 all the way to Code Veronica, she turned those games into novelizations. She also has 2 original novels in the same, with Resident Evil, but that's kind of beside the point. Anyway, S.D. Perry often uses the long dash to communicate, like, a surprising action or thought that occurs within a thought, or like a piece of surprising information. Like, you're on the trail of one thought, like one sentence, and then the long dash comes along and there's another thought completely because it's surprising information. The sentence is finished with that surprising information. Like, that first half of the sentence is no longer relevant because of this surprising information, or figuratively speaking. But that was what was in my mind there, and because it's like Aranthis turns back around and the knight's just looking straight at her. So, again, I'm not quite sure, just to put that into perspective. But, yeah, the comedic tone is really continuing on here into the end of part 9, where the knight offers to fix her nose. But anyway, that'll do it for part 9. Thank you.